So welcome to the First Friday Entrepreneurship Call. We call it the First Friday E-Call with K-State Research and Extension. The purpose of the E-Call is to increase the local community's knowledge of the experts, the education, and the economic resources that are available to help your community. And I am just never, ever I'm just always surprised at the abundance of resources that Kansas makes available to our local communities and the challenges that keep up with it all. As always, the call is being recorded and you will get a link to the website after it's over. I would very much, our webmaster is on vacation today, so it won't be till Monday. But as always, I would very much like to know if and the call matters to you and why. And so I'm going to teach to the test. At the end of the call, I will be asking you a very, very quick 3-question survey. And I'd appreciate it if you'd answer. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to ask you. Did you learn something today that you can use immediately? How many people will you forward this information to? And what did you learn today that was most helpful to you? And I will give this information to both Scott and Vince, our speakers, so that they can know too what is helpful to you. And so with that, I'm going to very quickly, I will tell you that if you would like to promote these calls to your newsletter or your social media coverage, please put your name in the chat and you might make it clear that that's what you're asking about. And I will add you to the email list so that you can post the promotion to your web pages a couple weeks out. So with that, I'm going to start with Scott Sewell with Kansas Main Street. And also introduce at the same time Vince Haworth with Kansas Capital Access Center. And they will be telling you about 2 great tools to support Main Street development. Scott, take it away.
All right. Thanks very much, Nancy. And thanks to everybody for being here. I'm excited to see everybody. I know a lot of the names and faces on this call, so that's good. And we have a few of our local Main Street directors here, so that's good. And they would be great resources because they're all doing great things in their communities and are great examples of how the Main Street program can work in your community. And then I also want to mention that Tara Logan, our program specialist with Kansas Main Street, if you can see her on the screen, she just waved. She's just been with us for maybe a month, if even that. So she's brand new. And then Robert McLaughlin is our design specialist. He's on the road this week out working in communities, so he's not on this call. And then we'll have a 4th staff person that we'll be adding soon, which will be the first time we've ever had 4 staff people in the program. So I'm going to get right to sharing my screen and let's talk about Main Street and how it can work for you. Hopefully everybody can see that. All right, super. So the Main Street program in Kansas, there we go. So basically, your downtown in pretty much every community in the state is really the heart of the community. It builds a positive image for the entire community. It's a place that entrepreneurs want to be and start businesses, so it creates jobs and helps strengthen the retail and service markets. It keeps dollars in the community by stabilizing and improving the tax base and creating sales from businesses. And downtown is really what makes up the historic character of the community. So when you're working on downtown revitalization, it is preserving that historic character. And I wasn't able to participate in last month's First Friday call, but I did watch the video, and Kelly's part of last week or last month's call was kind of a perfect segue to what I'm talking about, because she talked about the importance of having a historic district and having buildings on the register and how you can get tax credits and how that kind of spurs economic development. But how that kind of teed up my presentation is that that's just one part of what you do when you're really working and focusing on downtown revitalization. And we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But the Main Street 4-point approach started in the 1970s as a pilot program in Texas. It became a national program in 1980, I believe. It's a historic preservation based economic revitalization tool. In Kansas, the program started in 85 with 5 communities. It lasted until 2012 when it was closed, and Governor Brownback and the legislature brought it back in late 2019. And so we rebooted the program at that time. Interestingly enough, back in the 90s, I was the assistant director of this same program. And so I started as a local Main Street director in Salina, became the assistant director in Kansas, became the director in Nebraska, then moved back to Kansas and did consulting in this area for almost 20 years, working in hundreds of communities in over 30 states. Communities as small as 800 people to big urban areas in Milwaukee and Portland and Chicago and areas like that. So I have, and I've also started at the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce is where I started my economic development work. So I've kind of been through the entire economic development cycle for communities, and I will argue till my last breath that the Main Street approach is the best bang for the buck economic development tool you will find anywhere. And that's been proven not only in Kansas, but nationally for the last nearly 40 years. But the approach builds on the assets of your community and your downtown, the architecture that you have downtown that you don't have anywhere else. When I've done extended presentations similar to this, I will show pictures of Walmarts and Dollar Generals and Family Dollars and ask people to tell me where those are. And nobody can tell me because they all look the same in every community. But then I show pictures of a courthouse square in a town or some cool buildings or some neat park that a community has in their downtown. And instantly you can tell where those communities or where those images are from, because that's what creates that sense of place. So we build on the architecture, that sense of place, and then downtown businesses just have personal service that you can't get anywhere else. And then downtown has a character and a flavor. Those successful downtowns really build on that character and build on all those assets to bring about long-term success. But there is a specific 4-point approach, and those 4 points are organization, design, promotions, and economic vitality. We're going to talk quickly about those 4 and a little bit about what makes those all work. But organization is really building the organizational structure to have a program of work to improve your downtown. It's building consensus and cooperation between different groups in town, public and private sectors. It's about having the volunteer base and the capacity to do what you need to do, making sure the organization is financially solvent and able to carry out a program of work, and then communicating and doing the public relations part of what you do and letting people know and tooting your own horn, which is always difficult to do because we're so busy in downtown revitalization that sometimes we don't think about letting people know what we're doing and bragging on ourselves enough. Design is really enhancing the visual quality of downtown, your buildings and your storefronts, your signage, window displays, graphics, streetscape. And then that's what a guy like Robert McLaughlin, our design specialist, helps with. He's in communities right now doing design training in our newest community and working on, excuse me, some other issues with buildings and the built environment in another community. And so we have the ability to get somebody in your community to provide that type of training to our designated communities and provide assistance in this area. But the idea is that the design aspect of the 4-point approach really addresses the built environment. Another point is promotions, and that's something that a lot of communities are pretty good at. It involves retail promotions, special events, image development, but it's really establishing downtown and making sure it's a compelling place to not only shop and visit, but also to invest. And then the fourth point is economic vitality. And that's really the economic part of what we do. It's helping your existing businesses, making sure they're healthy and expanding and growing, while looking at your business mix and your market, and looking at what new businesses might fit in your downtown, and then converting unused space into productive property, and just strengthening the overall competitiveness of downtown merchants and the downtown environment. So the idea is that you work in all four of those areas all the time to bring about long-term change. Now, sometimes you're heavier in one area than the others. For example, when communities first get into our program, the design part of things and improving facades and the way downtown looks is something that some of the more younger communities start with. Retail promotions and special events is also something that is pretty heavy in a younger program. But as programs mature and you do this over the long term, then you can really start to influence the economic viability of your downtown. But the approach is also based on 8 guiding principles that are designed to diversify and strengthen the economic base of downtown. It's a comprehensive approach. So I mentioned all 4 of those points, and working in all 4 of those areas comprehensively is what brings about long-term change. We also always focus on quality over quantity. So we would rather have you focus on quality projects rather than just throwing something at everything and hoping something sticks. Public-private partnerships are critical. The local merchants, your city hall, your school system, your economic development groups in the area, other businesses outside of downtown should all be concerned about how your downtown is and how viable it is. I can tell you from being involved in economic development for about 30 years that every major economic development project that I've ever been involved in, bringing in an industry or a bigger company, they always want to look at downtown in the community that they're considering, and they want to know that downtown is healthy and a great place to shop, and ask their employees to live in a community that has a healthy downtown. I know when I was here the first time in the 90s, there was a major company that specifically narrowed their choice down to 5 communities, and they were all Main Street communities specifically for that reason, that they wanted their employees to live in a community that focused on their downtown and made sure it was healthy and viable. But it's also about changing attitudes, and that's always an uphill battle. And you don't change everybody's attitudes at one time. You do it one person at a time, but it takes a long time to do that. We focus on the existing assets first, and what assets are in your downtown. We make sure we understand what properties are available, what space is available, what you can work with. It's also a self-help approach. We can go in, state staff, national staff, the consultants we work with can go into any community and pretty quickly identify issues that need to be addressed. But what we do is help you understand those issues and see them from other people's eyes, and figure out how to make things work in a way that works best for your community. So we don't tell you what to do. We give you the tools and resources, and you use those in a way that works best for you. And that helps you be successful in the long term by building your capacity locally and expanding what you're able to do. It's an incremental approach. This fits with the comprehensive part of this, that you take small steps, you focus on quality, you change attitudes, you work with your existing assets, and you take those small steps. And we work with programs to make sure they have an annual program of work. And in that process, we help them look at what they want to do in the next 12 to 18 months. And then 12 months later, we look at what they accomplished, and then what do they want to do next. And so comprehensive plans are important, long-range plans are important, but this incremental approach is really what brings about long-term success, and focusing on what can we do now to improve ourselves, and then do that year after year after year. And then it's implementation oriented. It's about getting things done. When we do market analysis, for example, in communities or different design plans, it's about using those plans and getting things done, and not having, you know, documents that sit on the shelf, or but it's implementation oriented. So we get things done. So it's incremental and comprehensive. It's a self-help program. Those are local things that happen. It's a technical assistance program, the state, and we have a contract with the Main Street America program, and we have a great relationship with them. So we can bring in resources that they have to work in our communities. So we can provide the technical assistance, but it's also not a quick fix. And that's one of the differences between last month's call and Kelly's valuable information about historic buildings and being on the register and taking advantage of those tax credits. That's a single part of what you do in Main Street. And so rather than focus on one project, it's, you know, a project-based organization. This is comprehensive, and you're looking at all those things in your downtown that need to be addressed. And it doesn't happen quickly. It's a long-term process. And when we accept communities in the program, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, I always say that, you know, people ask, well, how long are you in the program? And I say, once you start doing Main Street, why would you ever stop? Rarely do we see people close chambers of commerce, and there are a lot of chambers that are frankly floundering and just kind of lost, but they don't close them down. So once you get involved in downtown revitalization and you have an organization, you're doing this, just commit to the long term and bring about long-term change. So what are some of the next steps if you want to get more involved in improving your downtown? We created a program shortly after we rebooted in 2019 called the Affiliate Program. And so you can be an affiliate community. It costs $400 a year. And that allows you to send up to 4 people to our quarterly training sessions. We have at least 4 a training session each quarter, or 4 a year. Now that we're doing more virtual things, we often have virtual sessions mixed in, and our affiliates can participate in any of those as well. And we've had some affiliates recently ask, can I bring more than 4 people? And typically you can, but we limit it to 4 right off the bat, just for logistical reasons, to make sure we have the space. But we usually do have space for people to attend those trainings. But the affiliate program gives you the opportunity to get some of the tools and resources that we offer our designated communities and use them at a pace that works for you. There's no expectations, no accountability. You can take those tools and use them or not. And it's great for communities that want to become designated at some point, but that's not an expectation or a requirement by being an affiliate community. And so it really kind of helps you start having the conversations about how you can improve your downtown, and giving you some of those tools and resources, and bringing you into the network with other Kansas communities that are doing the same thing. So the $400 a year membership starts when you join. So if you were to sign up today, for example, your membership would be good for the next 12 months, and you would be able to participate in the next any of the training sessions that happen in the next 12 months. So it's kind of on a rolling membership. The other option is to become a designated community, and the application process for designated communities begins in late 2023. We'll have an application workshop. We'll explain the application process and what it means to be in the community and what's involved. It is a competitive application process. We can select up to 3 communities each year. We don't have to select 3. In fact, this year we brought in Waukene, was the only community that we brought in. We've brought 3 communities in every other year since we've been back. So through that process, you demonstrate your need and your understanding and your commitment to the Main Street approach. And that involves showing us that you're setting up an organization, or will set up an organization, that you'll have a paid staff person with a budget, with an organizational plan in place to carry out the Main Street approach. Once you're selected, we help do all those things for you. But the application process really demonstrates to us your need and your commitment to the approach. And then once you're selected, we help train your board of directors, we help train your staff person, we train all your committees. I mentioned Robert is out in Waukene doing design training this week with those folks. So you get extensive training and technical support from our program and the national program once you're selected as a designated community. I get asked a lot about the staff part of this and the financial part of it. And we are open to discussing with you whatever way you think might work in your community to have that staff person and put that organization in place. And that could include having a merged organization with a Chamber of Commerce or another organization. The key thing to remember is, though, whatever organizational structure you want to propose putting together needs to have a substantial level of commitment to revitalizing your downtown and being a participant that's active and engaged in the program. So if you have questions about how that works, you can always reach out to me and I'd be glad to help. And I'm also more than happy to come out in your community and do a similar presentation to folks in your community about what it means to be in the program and how it might help you and how it might work for you. So again, once you're designated, you receive specific training and assistance. I've talked about this. We do a baseline assessment visit. We start helping you understand your market. We have access to some tools that can pull specific market data for your downtown and for individual businesses. We do annual progress visits and help make sure that we understand where you're at and what assistance you need. I've mentioned the quarterly training and the design assistance. And then we really are open to helping in any way you need help. So whatever issues you have, you can reach out to us. And if we can't help from our staff, we have National Main Street staff and a whole range of consultants nationally that we have access to, and we can get help for you. We also pay for your membership to Main Street America, which offers a lot of resources that are available that aren't otherwise available unless you paid for the membership on your own. So I think the question to ask is, what's your commitment to downtown? How committed are you to making sure your downtown is healthy and viable? And if you're thinking about applying to be a designated community, how well do you understand the Main Street approach? And again, I'm more than willing to do whatever I can to come to your community and help you be successful in applying to get in the program. You need to start thinking about your program funding. Where's that funding going to come from? We always recommend that there's typically a three-way split between funding. It needs to come from your local merchants and those people who are already downtown. City Hall needs to be an important player in this and needs to be involved in helping fund the organization. And then you can fund it through special events and activities and other ways. So again, we can help figure out how you put that together and how you help finding that broad-based support from everybody in your community. You need to have a professional qualified director. We can help with that process, and then carrying out the organization or putting together an organization to actually carry out a program of work. So what does success look like? Do you have juice? This is a graphic at the bottom that I've used for literally 30 years. I just can't get rid of it because I think it's kind of funny. You know, are they juicy steaks or do you have dead cow meat? And the difference between the two is not really that far apart. It's about perception. But what does your downtown look like now? Is it open and thriving? Are your buildings maintained? Are they collapsing around you? Is it a place to live? And that's something that we've helped communities with. Upper floor housing in downtowns is a great opportunity to expand some of the housing in your community. Typically, we find that about 4 to 6% of a community's population would be interested in living in downtown loft apartments. Now, 4 to 6% isn't going to solve the statewide housing issue, but 4 to 6% in a lot of communities can open up other housing opportunities. If you can build upper floor lofts downtown, but that's another presentation we can do some other time. Your downtown offers culture and history. Is your public space being utilized? Do you have thriving and diverse businesses? Is it kind of the place to go? A successful downtown is the gathering place. It's where people want to be and be seen. Is it safe? And is it just a cool place to be? So think about those things when you're looking at your downtown. Look at your downtown through the eyes of a visitor and think about maybe how they perceive things and start to look at ways that you can improve your downtown. Because even the successful downtowns that have been in our program for years are constantly changing and evolving. And the things that are happening today in your downtown, as we know, especially over the last 3 or 4 years, things are going to change quickly. So that's why it's not a one-off project-based program. So this is our contact information for the 3 of us on staff now, myself, Robert, and Tara. You can reach out to any of us with questions or issues. If you have questions about how to get in the program or how to be more involved as a designated community, or you would like me to come out and speak to your community, again, I'm more than happy to do that. And that's, frankly, that's one of the favorite parts of my job, is getting out in communities and sharing this program and helping people get involved. So that's it. I'm open to any questions, and I appreciate everybody being on this call. And I want to thank Nancy for giving me the opportunity to be here.
And I want to thank you for a great presentation. I am going to go on to Vince's presentation, so we make sure that we have enough time. And I hope you will stay for the announcements at the end, because we do have announcements this time, including some pretty important ones. So Vince, go ahead and share your slides, and we will stay late if we need to get everything in, but I don't want you to miss some of the announcements. Thanks, Vince. Thanks,
Okay,
Scott.
thank you. Can everyone see my inner PowerPoint so far? Just want to make sure. So Nancy, thank you for having us on. I'm really excited about joining you today. I see from the people that are in attendance, we're really hitting a market that we really probably haven't spoke to before. So really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Scott, thank you for the wonderful presentation. I'm a big believer in downtowns myself, and taking over this role as Capital Center Director, I've been able to cover the state of Kansas, and I've seen so many great communities that have wonderful downtowns. And I thought I knew Kansas before, but now I really know it. I think about Cottonwood Falls and Galena and some of these just great downtown areas that are just hidden gems. So thank you again. We'll go ahead and get started. I know we got a time limit here, but my name's Vincent Haworth. I'm the director of the Capital Access Center for the Small Business Development Centers of Kansas. For those of you who may not be familiar with the Small Business Development Centers, we're a nationwide network. We provide business assistance, technical assistance for our clients. We're a free resource to use. We have great advisors and directors throughout the nation, but here in Kansas, you'll typically find us in higher education centers. So as like K-State, Wichita State, KU, Pitt State, all throughout, we have advisors and directors that are available to businesses at free to no cost. And we can help you pretty much with all your business needs. So we'll go ahead and get started. So you're probably like, what is the Capital Access Center? What do we do here? We are loan-specific consulting services to small businesses here in Kansas to gain capital. We're former bankers. We have actually 2 of us. We have over 50 years of combined lending experience. I have a partner out in Salina, Kansas, that helps with businesses in the western side of Kansas and the north portion of Kansas. He is a former bank president. And so we are both bankers that work for the clients now, not the bank. We love our bankers, so don't get offended, bankers, if you're on here. But I will say we represent the clients now. We work for you and not the banks. So we're going to talk about our services later. But we were initially funded by CARES Act right at the pandemic. And the thought is that, you know, our businesses here in Kansas are going to need even more access to capital than what we've provided in the past. And CARES Act provided the opportunity to start this division of the Small Business Development Center. And we'll get to it as you see the bullet point down there, but we are actually the only dedicated capital center throughout the whole national America's Small Business Development Center. Now, there is some bankers that work for the Small Business Development Center, but we are truly dedicated only to getting capital for our clients here in Kansas. So we're very unique. This hadn't been in existence before. It was a brand new idea. I'm myself and actually a startup company in some regards. We had an idea. And I want to thank Greg Jordan, our director of the SBDC, for having that vision, and the former director when they had the vision to start this. And I also want to thank Johnson County Community College and Fort Hays State University, in addition, to continue our funding now that CARES Act has ended. They've stepped up to the plate, and I think you'll see on the next slides just how much of a commitment it is that we cover the entire state of Kansas. So let me tell you a little bit about what we do here at the Capitol Center, because it sounds great, right? But what do we do? Well, first of all, we give first-rate service. We give one-on-one consulting with bankers in a timely capacity. So when we have a client that gives us a business plan or financial projections or finance balance sheets and income statements, we really try to take those and turn those around in just a few days to give them feedback from a banking perspective. We are a complimentary resource for the Small Business Development Center. So anybody in Kansas that's a client with the Kansas SBDC can work with the Capital Access Center. They just have to be able to tell them who they want to work with here, either myself or Alan. We're usually divided into geographic regions, and there's no monetary requirement to work with us. One of the things that you'll see, there is some similarities with, I guess you could say, a loan broker. We don't like to say we're loan brokers by any means, but in that case, a loan broker might charge you 10% for project costs, and there is no financial commitment to work with us. We like to say, when we work with our clients, we like to get you loan committee ready. So when we get you in front of that banker as a business owner, you're going to go in completely prepared to talk to bankers, and the bankers love us. You could say we're kind of handing them a referral on a silver platter. They really don't have to do anything once they've been through our system. And the bankers are really big fans of what we're doing. Being former bankers, we know what they're looking for, how to package things. And so our clients actually really love this as well. Who's been down 135th Street in Overland Park, or who's been down Douglas in Wichita? You really kind of go, oh my goodness, how many banks can there be, and why are there so many banks? And when you think about it from a client, you think about banks are all the same. Well, the reality is they all kind of do something different. And as a client, how would you know this? And this is what we do. We'll get into it a little bit more, but we really vet out these banks and find out what they do. And we're really saving everybody a lot of time in this scenario that we're doing at the Capitol Center. We do a lot of training. We'll do financial training. We do it internally. We do it with centers of influence throughout the state of Kansas. And since we've started 3 years ago, we actually just passed our 3-year anniversary. We've helped assist with over $70 million in Kansas small business funding since we started. From a startup concept, I think we've been pretty successful. We're really happy. We've had so many great success stories through these 3 years. We're so excited to be working for the client. So what do we do at the Capitol Center? So first of all, we look for eligibility screening. We take a loan request and review it for a eligibility, especially if if their client has an SBA loan. There's a lot of requirements with that. We want to make sure that our clients, before they get to the bank, are eligible. If we're looking at financials, we're looking at personal credit scores, what we want to do is make sure that they're eligible, so we're not wasting people's time. One of the things that we really like to do is work with them on the structure. How many times has a client said, well, I need $100,000, but I don't know how that looks. Is it going to be a term loan? Is it going to be a line of credit? Is it going to be an SBA loan? Is it going to be a 504 SBA loan? There's so many different products that are out there that maybe the client or even sometimes the banker is not aware of. And so we help our clients, our advisors, go through that structure process and look what makes the best advantage for our clients. One of the unique things that we do is we actually underwrite our client just like the bank would. We take them and match them up to a loan presentation where we know exactly what their strengths and weaknesses are from a banking perspective. What we try to do is mitigate any kind of weaknesses and enhance those strengths. So when our clients go in to talk to bankers, they're ready. And one of the very unique things that we do is the capital partner assistance. And I think this is where a lot of people kind of call us loan brokers, if you will. We like to say matchmakers. I think that's a little bit better of a description for us. But what that means to the clients, the advisors, and the bankers that may be on this call is if we have a client that does not have a bank relationship, or maybe the bank relationship doesn't fit their credit request, what we do is we actually work with banking resources on a local level, regional level, and national level. We are looking at banks who we've all heard the story of someone going to 20 different banks, getting turned down by 20 banks, and then they get to the 21st bank and finally someone says yes. What we're trying to do in this situation is get them to the 21st bank right away. And a lot of times, if you go back to my example of all the different banks, you could have a perfectly fine credit request, but it probably just doesn't fit the banks that they're talking to. So that's where we kind of come in. We'll go down to the financial partner building. We spend about 60% of our time talking to bankers on a consistent basis. Our advisors do so much counseling and so many other things that they don't have time to talk to bankers. We know exactly what they're looking for, what kind of loans they're looking for, their preferences, how much they're charging, what kind of structures they like, things of that nature. And we've expanded our national network and regional network tremendously since we started 3 years ago. So businesses in Kansas has so many more choices than what they had. We also do financial training, as I mentioned earlier. We also do internal staff training. I will tell our advisors, they are almost practically bankers in some cases. It's funny to hear them. They can almost probably go work at a bank and no one would ever know that they've never worked for a bank before. We also provide underwriting guidance. So what this means is once a credit analyst or a loan committee receives a financial package from a client, very often they'll come back and ask questions regarding that loan request. And we've prepped them pretty good, but there's always going to be questions that come back and maybe the client doesn't understand what the bank's asking for. And if you are not able to answer these questions thoroughly, this can affect your ability to get a loan. So we actually provide guidance during this process as well. As you can see, we really provide a lot of value for what we're doing. I think probably the biggest thing is the banking experience. We love our advisors and directors here at the SBDC, but the reality is they haven't spent 50 years in banking, and nor would they probably want to have to, but we do look at credit requests from a different point of view. We understand the bank industry, their underwriting process. We know exactly what they're looking for. We have the direct contacts we love our local banks. We really want to build those relationships locally, keep that money here locally if we can. But we also have resources regionally and nationally if we do need to go that way. From a client experience, they like it. I mean, we're screening them based on bank credit policies. So by and large, they get into the bank, there's no surprises. We're really looking for, issues on the front end. If we can mitigate any of those issues before they talk to a bank, it's really going to improve their chances for an approval. Typically, you only get one shot with the bank. Once they kind of make up their mind about somebody, that's it. So you really want to go in with a really prepared package, ready to go, able to answer their questions. We provide multiple loan structure solutions. I'm a former SBA lender. This is something that a lot of banks or lenders aren't familiar with the program. We're talking to banks who understand these programs. We're really trying to get you to the financial partners and resources that make sense for your loan request. We do have Ask a Banker. We'll do these webinars too. We'll literally just put out Ask a Banker. We put out posts to LinkedIn. We do webinars, and it's all those questions that you don't know. And maybe you're a little embarrassed to ask, bankers sometimes they're just not an open book. And you just don't know, and you don't want to say or ask a question in a public forum. We do those kind of things all the time. One of the biggest things we do too is pre-flight loan discussions with lenders. So we actually talk to the lenders before we make introductions for our clients. We want to make sure that the bank likes what the request is right from the get-go. If you're a gym or a restaurant, and I apologize if there's any gyms or restaurants on the call today, but those are harder loans to do. And say the chief credit officer took a loss on one 10 years ago, and they vowed they would never do a restaurant or gym loan in their life, despite being a very valid request. We want to know that up front. And I think that's where we get to the point where we see, clients who go from bank to bank to bank trying to figure out what they do. And that just kind of leads to the next bullet point about focused approach to funding. We're really not throwing things against the wall and seeing if they stick. We're really putting time and effort into finding the right resources for our clients that give them the maximum chance of approvals. Again, we provide guidance through the underwriting process, and then we provide ongoing client support after the funding request, especially with our SBDC. We have great advisors and directors that help with that. And then for any of our bankers that are maybe on the call or any of our financial partners, they absolutely love this. I mean, the more they hear about it, the more they love it. We're vetting out these clients with a bank approach. Two bankers are vetting this out, and it is really saving a lot of time for everybody. We do ongoing training. As I mentioned earlier, we're keeping updated on financial trends. I know Michael's on here from SBA. There's a lot of changes coming that are actually already here. And so we're already keeping up on those new SBA policies that are coming. Again, our SBA, our advisors here, they're talking like bankers now. They really know what they're doing. We're no cost, and we're a great financial resource for your community. I'm going to wrap up with one little quick story that's not in the presentation. We have several businesses that are opening up here in the next month, and I thought, it would be great to send out an email to our internal staff to tell them about all the great businesses we have. And these are just retail or service type businesses that the Capital Center's been involved with. And I started the email and I said, okay, we've got this business and this business. By the time I was done with our email, we had over 27 businesses that are going to be opening up this month or next month throughout the state of Kansas. And that is just the Capital Center clients. That is not including our SBDC clients that maybe was self-funded or they didn't work with the Capital Center. So I think when you see that kind of impact, 27 businesses that are going to be opening up in just the next month or two, I think that really speaks volumes about the great things that we're doing here. I couldn't be prouder to work for the SBDC and be able to run this Capital Center and work for our clients. Contact information is right there on there, and once again, I want to thank everybody for being here. You can see I'm very passionate about what we do here, and I just appreciate the time that everybody's put in this morning.
Wow, Vince, thanks so much. And Scott as well. Scott had this space all by himself, but I'm just amazed at how, thank you for your flexibility to add another program, because these are so well coordinated. Vince, why don't you stop sharing and we'll see people's faces again. I guess I'm going to share next if I can get my act together here. Oh, no, first, I want to get people ready to collect the information from the sharing. So I hope you all know how to make the chat come into your own saving. If you go into the chat, click the chat, and at the bottom of the chat window is the opportunity, or inside of your own chat is the opportunity to, oh, sorry, I'm trying to do my own, to save. I'm struggling with my own instructions. To save the chat, who can save me on how to save the chat?
Lower right hand corner, when you click on chat, click on the three dots,
There you
and
go.
by more, it just says save chat.
There you go. Thank you, Nathan. Yes, go into your own little square. Up in the top right hand corner is a little blue ellipsis, and right click it and save the chat. And you're going to want to do that because there's some great things to be saved. And I almost forgot the most important one. And so I made it the first one. You're going to see a lot of stuff here that you shouldn't be seeing, but be patient with me. The first one is this. All right. I don't think you're seeing it yet. There we go. Are you seeing the right one? Okay, announcements. This one, I got this in my inbox and totally just did not take in how important it is. And I want all of you to take note of this one in particular. If I can get to the right place, I'm going to show you how to save it in your chat or to access it. This is the Kansas Association of Counties. Sorry, I'm really struggling here with all my screens and methods. This is the Kansas Association of Counties email, and I'm sure I saw this, but just yesterday, someone explained to me the importance and the meaning of this announcement. And the importance of it is this. A year ago, the federal government passed the BIL, the bipartisan infrastructure law. And that means that we all have access to a ton of funding if only we take the opportunity. Completely lost where I'm at here. Okay. So back to my, Are you guys seeing the slides?
Yeah, something about August 28th, 2 p.m.
Yes, okay. And so in the chat, I've put the complete story that the Kansas Association of Counties wrote. What this means is with millions and billions, actually billions of dollars invested in the bipartisan infrastructure law, when they had a meeting in Wichita last year to explain all these opportunities through the Kansas Hub, why local communities said, well, that's all fine and good, but what about this 20% match? How can we possibly raise the 20% match? And so Kansas passed a bipartisan match of their own, which makes $215 million of funding available to local communities to help with that match. And as the person who explained it to me said, imagine if you had $500,000 of local match for 400 Kansas communities, the difference that could make in leveraging money to come for infrastructure into your local communities. So I wanted to make sure that you saw that and understood the importance of it. What I've given you the link to is the Kansas Association Counties flip book that tells these things. This is the Makerspace Summit. This is the first ever Network Kansas Makerspace Summit. It will bring together the existing and those wannabe makerspaces to figure out, to discuss best practices, equipment, and funding. It's going to take place at Emporia State on Wednesday, September 10th, from September 20th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's free and lunch will be provided. If you have a makerspace or are working to create one, you should be there. Registration will end on September 1, Friday, September 1. And I will put that into the chat as well, how to get to that. Except if I can find out where my spreadsheet is. Okay. And then finally, and I don't care if you see the slides on that, I have too many things here. So the Makerspace Summit registration is right here. Okay, and then finally, we continue to do the grant writing classes. The next one is in September 11th and 13th. And that one's online. We have 2 more scheduled after that. If you have people that need to have it be in the evening, one of those classes is going to be in the evening. The Kansas, formerly the Kansas Pride programs, now the Kansas Empowered Communities program is going to host an evening one. And then we also have Dodge City Development wanted to do an in-person class. And for those people who love in-person classes, they are charging $40 for an all-day grant writing session. I'll be the speaker. It'll be the exact same program. But if you're on the west side of the state, you might enjoy being part of that. They hosted one in March and they filled their room and they felt like they could fill it 2 more times. So they're hosting 2 events, one on the 26th and one on the 27th. You should only register in one of those because they're the exact same event. So those are in Raising the West, and I gave you the link to the September calendar. Okay, now I shorted you on question time for our participants. What questions do you have? There were some good questions and others answered them, Scott, about the training opportunities, the quarterly training. Vince or Scott, either one, do you have questions for them?
Yeah, I would mention that it was discussed in the chat, but yeah, we even though we're housed in the Kansas Department of Commerce in Topeka. We've had one new directors training in Topeka. All of our quarterly trainings have been out in communities. So we want to try and avoid having them in Topeka. Nothing wrong with Topeka, but we want you to get out and see other communities. And I think that has value to the participants to be able to see other communities and experience what they've been doing. So
Ron Wilson and I are a part of the community vitality team here at K-State. And every time we've gone to a small community as a staff, it's just been amazing what you learn from other communities. You don't expect what you're going to learn. Jamie, Augusta has really benefited from Main Street. Life-changing experience. And Vince, you're right. Nobody wants to talk about banking, but to me, the revelation when I went to the Network Kansas Resource Partners was the fact that all banks are not the same. And when you tell me that, you know, you might look at 21 banks, why not just find out that 21st bank right from the beginning? It's like, oh, that, you know, these are entrepreneurs. They've got too many things to do to know that too. Vince, what can a small bank do to become involved as an SBDC lender?
Oh, thank you for reaching out. Just email me. I would love to talk to you. We really want to talk to our local bankers first. You know, I'm a community banker from a small town, and you know, we really want to keep those dollars in Kansas if possible. So please just email me. I would love to talk to you.
Yeah, Vincent, I can see the immediate, these folks are people who are connectors in their own communities. And so Jamie, I appreciated that question because I was thinking that the main benefit that these folks would have would be to connect people who need money to you, but it works both ways apparently.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's a big yes. Any other questions? Okay, so next month, our topic is housing again. We've had a lot of housing. I hope some of you will be at the August 20th, the Kansas Housing Resources Corporation Conference in August. I'll be there. And that's actually where I learned from my co-presenter about that resource I just shared with you. But Dodge City has done some amazing things with housing. And in our next call, Molly Wainscoat, the Assistant Director of Dodge City Ford County Development, it will be talking about how Dodge City leveraged partnerships and grants to improve housing. And I'm struck by how pertinent our thought for the day is today. The thought for today is competition happens at the bottom. The top people at the top are collaborating. So thanks for joining us and create a great Kansas day. Thanks, everybody. And the call will be posted on Monday because our webmaster is on vacation.